Hi guys, it's Michelle, and today's video is going to be yet another unsolved mystery video for you guys. This video is going to be all about the disappearance of Johnny Gosch. On September 5th of 1982, 12-year-old Johnny Gosch was a paperboy at the time. He was on his early morning route in West Des Moines, Iowa. I think it's interesting to note that Johnny never went alone on his paper routes. He always had his dad with him, and the night before he disappeared, he asked his parents if he was allowed to go by himself, and his parents said no because, you know, it's 5 o'clock in the morning when he goes, it's very dark outside, and he's only 12 years old. They thought it was dangerous. However, that morning, Johnny didn't go to wake up his parents, and he left on the paper route by himself. Johnny's parents, Noreen and Josh, only realized that he was missing when they received a call from one of Johnny's customers saying that they never got their morning paper. So Johnny's dad, Josh, tried to head out to find him, and he ended up finding his wagon filled with the papers. So the police began to search for Johnny, and I will say that this part really annoys me, the way that they reacted. When they couldn't find Johnny at first, they, asked his parents, do you think it's possible that Johnny ran away? And his parents really were adamant that there is no way that Johnny would have ran away from home. Like, that's just not like him. And the police kind of ignored this fact and still kind of went with the idea that he was a runaway, which in turn made them look less hard for him, which really sucks because, those first few hours when someone goes missing is super crucial in the result of like what happens and finding the person. So it really sucks that the police acted like this, but we've definitely seen a lot of fumbling with police in these missing persons cases. So because they waited so long, they were never able to find Johnny, and the case went completely cold. No suspects, no leads, just lots of questions. I think it's interesting to note that 2 years after Johnny's disappearance, another 13-year-old boy named Eugene Martin vanished in the exact same way, just a neighborhood adjacent to Johnny's. He went on his morning paper route on August 12th of 1984, and his newspaper bag was also found abandoned with all of the newspapers still inside. I just feel like it cannot be a coincidence that these two cases happened so close to each other and in such a similar manner. The boys were around the same age, and also they were both paper boys on their early morning route. It is very strange. I just don't see how anyone could not come to the conclusion that the two cases are intertwined in some way, because literally, like, what are the odds that this two boys from the same town working for the same newspaper go missing during their morning paper route? Despite the similarities in the cases, law enforcement claims that these two cases are not connected. This one was a little bit different. This actually occurred on a Saturday night. 13-year-old boy named Mark Allen, who went missing on March 29th, 1986, again 2 years after Eugene's case. He was walking to his friend's house when he completely vanished. The neighborhood was nearby where Johnny and Eugene went missing. Everyone who studies this case, I guess besides the police, believes that these three cases are connected. I guess what we have to remember is that Johnny's parents, Noreen and Josh, had very limited resources at this time, as well as the police department. I mean, there was no DNA testing at this period. Technology is just not where it is today. So it was really hard for them to find Johnny. There was no Amber Alerts or anything like that. And like I said, those first, I think it's 48 hours, are super crucial in a missing persons case in order for them to be found alive. Kind of a known thing, and that is why Amber Alerts are so important. 15 years later, Johnny's mom dropped a very interesting bombshell that I'm not quite sure what to make of it, but I have a few theories. So Noreen claimed that Johnny was actually kidnapped by a sex trafficking ring. There are a lot of people who think that, and I will continue with that further later. According to Noreen, a man came to the house with another man. He claimed that he was Johnny and that he was sold into this human trafficking ring, but he escaped his captors, and he went and told his mom, but he said he can't come home because it's too dangerous and no one can know where he is. Johnny's father, Josh, who had been divorced from Noreen for a few years, is not quite certain if the encounter ever actually happened, but a lot of people have theories regardless. I think that the encounter did happen. I think someone did show up to Noreen's house and claim to be Johnny. However, we'll go into some theories as to who that person could be.
It struck a nerve with other parents. They didn't want to be us. I love you so much, and I am so sorry that this happened in your life. But if you have survived this and have grown to be a man I am doubly proud of you because you had the odds against you throughout all of this, and you did it. You did it. And I'm still here. I move around a little bit. I'm not, I still live in Des Moines, but you can find me, contact me, and let me know if you're okay. I love you, son.
So after hearing Noreen really talk about her son, I don't think that she would make this up. I think someone definitely showed up at her house claiming to be Johnny. A lot of people believe that someone did show up to her house claiming to be Johnny, but most people believe that that was not him. And it's one of those people who I think they usually are trying to get money or some type of, situation. But there are a lot of instances, like a lot more than you would think, where people pretend to be missing people years later. So it's like to the point where they're unidentifiable. Usually if like a child goes missing years later when they're an adult, they go to these people's houses and pretend to be missing children. I don't know if they do it for like a thrill, if they do it for money. It's a sick fucking joke regardless, because these parents have been through enough. That is so messed up. Nonetheless, it happens way more often than you'd think, and I actually want to do a whole video on people who pretended to be missing people, because I think it would be really, really interesting to dive into. But I do want to reiterate that it is definitely a possibility that this person was Johnny and that his story is true. Human trafficking is such a huge problem in America, in the whole world, but like in America, it is really, really bad. It is 1000% possible that this man really did escape his captors, or as he got older, they didn't have use for him anymore, which is literally sick in every way. So it's possible they let him go, or he was able to escape easily because he was kind of pushed to the side. But it is so freaky to think about, because a lot of people who have survived human trafficking talk about how they cannot live life normally after that. They have to assume new identities and not speak to their families, and it's just is really horrible and would be so terrifying and so sad to have to go through. It is a possibility that this person who showed up on Johnny's mother's doorstep was actually Johnny. I will say I feel like a mother would know. I don't know for sure, but I just feel like moms have intuition. I mean, like, they just know. I just feel like they know. Mothers know everything, and that is so true. It is also definitely a possibility, like I said, that somebody was faking being him, which is even terrifying and so fucked up. But let's continue on with the story, because now it has been 40 years since Johnny disappeared, and I think the question that everyone is still asking is, where is Johnny? So Johnny's father actually recently spoke in an interview to, commemorate the 40 years since his child had disappeared, and he said, quote, "I still think of Johnny as a 12-year-old boy, not a 50-year-old adult. What I think of most is I cannot believe that someone has not come forward with information or something." And I think that that is really important to note as well, because when people, call things like a cold case, I feel like you don't realize how bad it actually is, and how many of these cases literally have no leads, no suspects, and no evidence whatsoever leading towards anything. And that is so terrifying. I think that would be so frustrating as a parent to have to go through that. It is just horrible to think that so many of these cases just go completely cold, and probably will remain so forever. John Walsh, who is the host of America's Most Wanted, actually weighed in on this case, and he said, quote, "We were involved in that case from the beginning and profiled him I don't know how many times on America's Most Wanted. I always believed that there was a serial pedophile kidnapper in that area." And there are a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding that in general, and that idea, and it's terribly disgusting, but people believe that that is why there was 2-year gaps between each kidnapping. Is they kidnapped this person, kidnapped a 12-year-old boy because that's like what he wanted, and then 2 years later, at 14 years old, they were too old, literally disgusting, and tossed to the side or killed or something, and then that is when they kidnapped more kids. And I do think that this is a possibility. I think it's really interesting that the guy from America's Most Wanted believes that, because obviously this is somebody who has to do a lot of research. He has to be very informed on every case that he talks about, not only that, but also on several cases overall. So he sees a lot of things and is able to, you know, take from different places and try to figure out different stories. So I do think that he's a pretty well-informed opinion, you know, to have on this case. And I definitely think that that is a possibility, that there's some creep out there that was just kidnapping little boys and killing them, or, you know, letting them run away but have to change their identity or something at the point where they were too old for him. Or I do think a human trafficking like ring more could have existed. And again, that explains the 2-year gap, because once the kids were too old, they would go kidnap another. And it is really horrifying to think about, but it is just too weird to not connect the dots between the 3 missing children from this area. It was just so specific and seemed so connected, like blatantly, and it's really frustrating that the police have not, you know, tried to connect those dots or say that they don't think that they're related, because I just feel like especially the first 2 are definitely related. I guess also people have the theory that Johnny was kidnapped and killed and just never found. I think that's a possibility as well. Either way, it is really, really tragic what happened to Johnny, and if he is out there and he really did escape his captors, I hope he's doing well, and I hope that he finds some way to contact his parents safely. Absolutely horrifying. And I think missing people's cases is the most interesting topic to talk about, and the most scary topic to talk about, because obviously it's interesting because someone out there knows something. There are people who know the answer to every missing person's case ever. There's someone out there who knows. And so that's like why I enjoy talking about them, because I feel like, you know, maybe someone knows something who's watching this. They can send a tip in, and whatever the case may be. But also I think it's really terrifying because people just go missing without a trace, and I just think that that is one of the scariest things ever. That is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this case. What do you think happened to Johnny? If you guys have any other missing persons cases or unsolved mysteries that you want me to cover, let me know in the comments below. But that is it for today's video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe for new videos every week, and I will see you guys later. Bye.